Hello and welcome to my channel. I am Zodiac Bandit, and today I want to be talking about something a little different. Campaign 3 is seemingly structured different from every other campaign. If you've noticed that we're still on the same story arc as the beginning, with the whole Ruidus thing, and now all of these same enemies still being around with Odahan Thule, and now Ira Windagoth, and the Cerberus Assembly characters. All of them are still here, whereas in previous campaigns, at least two of them might be gone by now. So it's a little different from before. And the question I'm going to be asking here today is, with this all happening, and it seems that we're coming to a sort of head here very soon, will this be the shortest campaign for Critical Role? So what I mean by the biggest differences here is in previous campaigns that they would do a sort of arc structure of the arc would start, they would gather information and find out the motive and how to beat them, and then they'd fight the enemy, win, and then everything would relax and sort of go like that. It would be a 3-act structure within a small arc. This has not been the case within Campaign 3 at all. We have not had a sort of gain information on the enemy, beat the enemy, go home. That hasn't happened yet in this campaign at all, with the exception of the Shade Mother. That was it. That was the only time that that's ever happened, and even then, they didn't quite defeat her fully yet, so she's still around. They didn't do it with Ira. They had a confrontation with Ira, but they didn't beat him, and then they ended up meeting him later. They then fought Odahan. This did not end well for them at all, and she is still running around. And they haven't even introduced themselves to Ludinus in person yet. So there's still all of these characters who are all related to each other in some way, still roaming around. It seems to be one big 3-act structure going on here, with the first act being the introduction, the second act being the rising of tensions, and the third act seemingly going to be the Apogee Solstice, where everything is going to be coming to a head, and that is only a week and a little bit away in the current campaign timeline. So I do think there's something to be said about this being a completely different structure because it's right there in our face. But I think this points to the campaign being either really short or there's going to be another sort of 3-act structure like this after. In fact, I'd be more willing to say instead of calling these arcs, we should call them sagas. I think that's more fitting to what's been going on so far, and we are currently within the Ruidus saga. This has led me to believe one of 3 things. One being that Matt is going to start stretching out the days across multiple sessions. He's already done that, actually. We've been in Eos for a day now, if they arrived at night and they're still there at about midday, and it's only been one day, and that's been across 3 episodes. And they're going to continue to do this as they move forward, as the Apogee Solstice is right around the corner and they have a lot to cover still. So this is what I mean. They're going to stretch days out as opposed to when they were traveling per se, multiple days would happen at a time. There is a big counter to this argument though, and that is after they grab Ashton, the Bell's Hells might go to Mori, and she might fuck this whole thing up and leave them going right into the Apogee Solstice because she's messed with time dilation in some sort of weird way. But until then, we don't know for sure. And as of right now, it really feels like Matt is stretching out the days across multiple sessions. And the next thing I do believe this campaign might be doing differently is it might be taking up 2 different massive sort of sagas like this Ruidus saga. This current saga revolves around 3 or 4 characters depending on who you are. That being Imogen, Orym, and Fern, them being directly related to Ruidus, with Fern and Imogen both being Ruidus born, and Orym having his hometown and husband killed, hometown attacked and husband killed by Odahan, who is directly related to both Imogen and Ruidus. It is definitely something to think about, that these characters are connected to it, and you can also connect Chetney to it as well, with him, being a werewolf and his sort of moon connection being a base level connection. But this leaves Laudna, Ashton, FCG, and depending on how you look at it, Chetney sort of in the background of these 3 characters all being related to this overarching saga, which to me leads to the idea that we might be getting another saga afterwards which connects to the other ones, which is the hope. Because as a DM, you don't want to have 3 people being the main characters and then 4 people feeling like they're in the outs, which as of right now is technically what's happening, because there's a huge emphasis behind Fern, Orym, and Imogen as we're looking forward into this Ruidus arc, and a small connection to Chetney. right now Ashton has had very little to do with sort of connecting to any of this outside of him being a, you know, knowing the legend of Odahan and his connection to Marquette itself. FCG has virtually zero connection to this stuff at all, with none of his backstory stuff sort of relating to any of this Ruida stuff. And same with Laudna, who has virtually no connection to any of this, and her backstory sort of being covered a little bit in a 3-episode mini arc where they went and got her revived in the early portions of this campaign, or previously in this campaign. So I do think that there are characters who are sort of on the back burner for this arc, which they believe, or which I believe, they should get their own arc to support them and prop them in the spot where the 3 other characters are currently. And Chetney is somewhere in between, where he is somewhere who is connected to this Ruidus arc a little bit, but also could definitely use some more stuff to boost him up as time goes on. So once this Ruidus saga ends, I do believe that there is a possibility of another saga popping up to give these players who haven't gotten anything so far something to more relate to. And my last belief is that this might actually be the shortest of all of the Critical Role campaigns. With the stretching going on, it really does feel like he is trying to pad out what's happening before we get to the climax of everything, and that truly follows into this sort of 3-act structure with us coming toward the climax of everything happening right now. And there's another thing I want to point out, and that is the level structure that's been going on for this campaign so far. So on your screen right now, if I've done the editing properly, you should be seeing the Mighty 9 levels and how, you know, kind of scattered they are. How going from level 5 to 6 was a big arc or a big jump between the two, and then level 7, 8, and 9 were sort of clustered, and then you had another big jump to level 10. And now you should be looking at the Bell's Hells one, and you can see something rather, you know, not jarring, but something specific going on with it, as it's been super quick for their level ups. And there's actually a pattern going on. Ever since level 5, every 10 episodes, they've leveled up. Level 5 was at level 12, or was episode 12, level 6, episode 22, level 7, episode 32, and level 8, episode 42, which would to me lead that at episode 52, they'll hit level 9, and at episode 62, they'll hit level 10, which will be the soonest for these campaigns, which we've seen from level 3 up. Obviously, the Vox Machina crew started at level 9, so it's kind of unfair, but comparing it to Mighty 9, this is an extremely accelerated level up scheme going on. Every 10 episodes is, first of all, extremely not formulaic, but there's a pattern to it, and it definitely leads to acceleration, as level 60, or level 6, episode 62 will be the soonest out of all of them, which this sort of level up would sort of take place, because that'll be level 10 if they do hit that spot and none of them die before that. So to me, this indicates that it's going a lot quicker, and we could end up seeing a much quicker rise to them being able to fight something like Predados, which seems to be some sort of god level killer. And lots of people pointed out that, you know, this is going to be something difficult for them to fight, but with them sort of reaching this rising action or rising climax, this might not even happen. They might be able to, at level 10, beat Odahan, because I do believe that when they fought Odahan the first time, they had a chance, even though it had been minuscule and they had used up some of their stuff before. If their rolls hadn't gone so bad for their initiative, I do believe that that fight could have gone differently. But the point being, this to me indicates a much faster progression level compared to anything else that we've seen so far, especially Vox Machina, because that was XP based, which, well, I'm not going to get into that conversation. But this has truly been an accelerated level up scheme that we've seen going on here. And I do think it indicates that it's going to be a shorter campaign. Whether or not it breaches 100 episodes or not, I don't know. But that would still make it the shortest out of all of them if it only got to 100, which if they get to 102, I think they would be level 14, if my math is correct. Maybe level 15, I don't know. But I do think it's rather interesting that this sort of level up scheme has been happening. They've been going through a lot of levels really quickly every 10 episodes. To me, it indicates a truly accelerated growth. So yeah, that is one of the main features to me, or main key points that I'm, using to think this might be a shorter campaign than the rest. So let me know down below what you think it's going to be out of these 3 options, or is there a 4th option, like me being completely wrong and somehow this continues to move forward and this is the only arc in the entire campaign 3 and it's a lot longer than I thought, even though if they take down these keys and then, you know, something else happens to where the Cerberus Assembly or Ludinus or Odahan has another plan to sort of bring Predatos down, which is also a possibility that I should have talked about. But I would like to believe that it's one of these three because I like thinking that my ideas are correct, even though I'm pretty well wrong goddamn all the fucking time. So anyway, let me know what you think down below. Is it going to be a sort of situation where Matt stretches out the episodes or stretches out the days across multiple episodes? Do you think there's going to be another big saga following this? Or do you think this is going to be a rather shorter campaign compared to the rest? I personally believe there's going to be another big saga after this. So yeah. Another thing that I forgot to point out was, by this point in Campaign 1 and in Campaign 2, we'd be either in the third arc or we'd be in the end of the second arc for Campaign 2. But as of right now, we're still kind of somewhere maybe in the middle of the second arc. We're not too sure. So yeah, I do think it's rather interesting to point out that this one seems to be wildly different on the structure of how it's working, with this being one large overarching villain or problem. I think it's rather interesting and rather cool. So let me know down below what you guys think of this sort of arc structure, or the saga structure, as I like to call it, because I think that is much more fitting than arcs. So yeah, let me know down below what you think. See you guys on Friday for my recap of episode 45. See you guys then. Peace.